Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. The Steve Sarkisian era begins in Austin as Texas continues their quest to finally be back. The million-dollar question is whether or not Texas can be back as soon as 2021, as soon as this season. The Longhorns clock in at number 19 in our early Gridiron Expert Top 25. And today, guys, we're going to take a look at their schedule, take a look at their FPI prediction, just kind of see what Steve Sarkisian is going up against in year one. And right off the bat, I can tell you that this schedule is very, very difficult for a first-year head coach. But Texas certainly does have the talent, guys. You look at this Longhorns team, they went 7-3 in 2020. Not a bad record at all, again, considering they did all that in the middle of a pandemic. But the Longhorn administration, the administration down in Austin, was not happy with Tom Herman. They let him coach their bowl game, a dominating blowout victory over Colorado in the Alamo Bowl, then cut ties with Tom Herman and brought in Steve Sarkisian, now obviously an Alabama product, a brilliant offensive mind, hoping to rejuvenate this program and get them to Big 12 championship games, win Big 12 championship games, get them to the college football playoff where many believe they belong. So all of that being said, Sarkisian has talent coming in and has talent that was already there. Yes, Sam Ehlinger is gone, but Casey Thompson wowed a lot of people in that Alamo Bowl. But John Robinson is a young, dominant running back. Pete Kwiatkowski comes in as the new defensive coordinator who did fantastic things up at Washington and inherits a very young but talented and deep Texas defense. The talent is there for the Longhorns to succeed in 2021. The million-dollar question is, can they do it? We take a look at their schedule, guys, and it's not encouraging for you Longhorn fans out there to realize that there is a possibility. We're not saying it's going to happen. We're not predicting any games up here. We're not predicting anything. But there is a possibility that Texas could start 0-2 in 2021. That is not that far-fetched. Their first two games, first off, it comes off against Louisiana. Game number 1, September 4th, Louisiana at home. A Louisiana team that we've said for months now could be higher ranked than Texas in this matchup. The Sun Belt team traveling to Austin could be higher ranked than the Longhorns. It's very possible because Louisiana is one of the best Group of 5 programs in the country right now. Billy Napier is an unbelievable head coach. Levi Lewis returns as their quarterback, and the defense will be one of the best in the Group of 5, could be up there as one of the best in the country. If you remember, Louisiana last year in week 1, or in their first game, took down Iowa State on the road. And Iowa State was a top 25 team. The Raging Cajuns won that game by 17 points. It's not far-fetched. If Texas is caught sleeping, they could lose to the Raging Cajuns. They then travel to Arkansas, an old Southwest Conference matchup, a big-time rivalry game between the Longhorns and the Razorbacks. Arkansas, while you look at their record, 3-7 last year, not that impressive, but those 3 SEC wins were huge for a program that had lost, 20, 21 straight SEC games? Sam Pittman is quickly turning that program around. Kendall Briles is turning that offense around. It's in Fayetteville, potentially a sold-out crowd for one of the biggest games of the year for the Hog Faithful. Not going to be an easy game for Texas, especially if they are hungover or beaten up after a physical game against Louisiana in week 1. So there is a possibility they could start 0-2. We're not saying that's going to happen, but those are not the easiest games to begin a coaching career. Those are not the easiest games to begin your tenure at your school, right? There's no walk in the park, no cupcake, nothing to kind of ease into. It's Louisiana, Arkansas, and then Rice. That's the first game where Texas, in theory, shouldn't really have to worry too much. Right after that, though, they dive into conference play. Everything from then on out is Big 12. Big 12 conference games. Texas Tech at TCU, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. Obviously, the game against Oklahoma on October 9th is the big one, guys. It always is. Red River Shootout, Red River Showdown, however you want to phrase it. October 9th down in Dallas, that's the big one. One of the best rivalries in sports. And the Texas faithful want to beat Oklahoma really, really bad. They want it. But Oklahoma was just ranked number 1 by ESPN in their early top 25 going into 2021. Lincoln Riley and Spencer Rattler finished the season very strong last year. They're absolutely the favorite in the Big 12 this year, no doubt about it. This will be interesting to see two great offenses going at it down in Dallas. So October 9th, that's the biggest game in this little stretch here, but that's not even the key stretch for us for the Longhorns. That's not even the key stretch for Steve Sarkisian in Texas. But Oklahoma, obviously the biggest game here. The biggest stretch for Texas, for me, if you're looking for a key stretch of games, comes right here from October 30th to November 20th, from Baylor to West Virginia. And I'll explain why. You could make a case. You could make a case that Texas's key stretch is from Texas Tech to Oklahoma State, right? You could say that these 4 games here, from Texas Tech, TCU, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State, that's the key stretch that will define the season. And I disagree, because here's the thing. When you look at Texas this year, yes, we said the talent's there. Maybe they surpass expectations. Maybe they exceed expectations or are right in the middle of a Big 12 title hunt as we approach the end of the season. But let's hypothetically say they aren't. Let's say they're 4-3 entering this bye week, which is possible. 4-3. They lose to Oklahoma. Maybe they lose to Arkansas. Maybe they lose to TCU. Some variation of these first 7 games, they lose 3. So they're 4-3. Or heaven forbid they're worse. Well, you come over to this 4-game stretch here where 3 of their final 5 are on the road and 2 of them are against elite opponents, I would say, in Iowa State and West Virginia. And you're going to laugh when I say West Virginia's elite. But Neil Brown is turning around that program in Morgantown. They are going to be the dark horse candidate in the Big 12 this season. A lot of returning starters. Morgantown, not an easy place to play. West Virginia has given Texas fits the last few years. Watch out for the Mountaineers. So you look at this. Baylor, first off, on October 30th, they're an up-and-coming program. They're only a few years removed from a Big 12 title appearance. Yes, they were pretty bad last year, pretty abysmal last year under Dave Aranda. But now he's in year 2 in a normal season. Chance to really install his system a little bit better. It is at home for the Bears. Texas cannot afford to overlook that game, even though they're coming off a week of rest. Right after Baylor, they traveled to Iowa State. Iowa State went on the road last year, beat Texas in Austin. The Cyclones are going to be a top 10 team to start 2021. Brock Purdy is back. Breece Hall is back. The offensive line is back. Basically, everybody from Iowa State that was on the team that made the Big 12 championship game and then annihilated Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl, almost all those players are back for 2021. I would say that Iowa State is probably the second best team in the Big 12 right now, only behind Oklahoma. And they have to travel to Ames. And as we all know, that's a very difficult place to play. You get a nice little break with Kansas there. Lance Leipold now coming in as the new head man for the Jayhawks, but no one's expecting anything from Kansas. It's at home in Austin. Don't have to worry about it. And then West Virginia, again, that team we were mentioning with Neil Brown, who really has, I believe, his team on the rise, where if Texas is caught sleeping, they're going to lose that game. That is going to be a very hard and physical game, and West Virginia is going to be licking their chops to pull off a massive upset there, if you can even call it that. So again, once again, 4-3 here, let's say. We're not predicting anything at all. We're not. But let's say they're 4-3. 5-3 with the win at Kansas. Where's your 6th win come? Because they won't be favored in theory against Iowa State. Might not be favored against West Virginia. Maybe it comes against Baylor. Maybe that's your 6th win, but maybe it isn't, which means everything could ride on this final home game against Kansas State on November 27th. Everything could ride on that game against the Wildcats. We've seen some classic matchups between Texas and Kansas State, although last year was not one of them. But again, having said all of that, guys, it is a tough schedule for Steve Sarkisian and Texas. The FPI agrees. The Football Power Index has Texas going to 7-5 in 2021. And that's where you have to ask yourself, if you're a Texas fan, what will you take in 2021? Obviously, you want to contend for Big 12 titles. Obviously, you want to beat Oklahoma. Eventually, you want to get to the point where you are in contention for the college football playoff. But the odds are that's probably not going to happen this year. So for you Texas fans out there, what is a successful season for you? What is a successful season for Steve Sarkisian in year 1 down in Austin? That's the million-dollar question. 7-5 for many wouldn't be cutting it. Just barely getting to a bowl game wouldn't be cutting it. But with this schedule, a 9-10 win season seems a little far-fetched. It's not entirely impossible, but it would be very, very difficult to pull off. The FPI says 7-5, and again, I'm telling you, this 4-game stretch from October 30th to November 20th, I believe will define the Longhorns season. That will make or break Texas' season. Mark it. Mark it. Right there. Maybe this one, but that's the one. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Very passionate video here with the Texas Longhorns. I'm a huge fan of Steve Sarkisian. I want him to pan out in Austin. As many say, when Texas is good, college football is good. It is good for the sport. Texas continuing their quest to try to get back. Once again, the million-dollar question is, when will that be? But again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything also down in the description below. We have so much exclusive content for you guys down there in the description. Do not miss it. And also make sure to hit that notification button, guys. If you hit that little bell, you'll get notifications for all of our new posts here as we continue to work through our schedule previews. You never know which team is coming up next as we continue to backtrack through our top 25. So hit that bell. Don't miss a single video right here on the channel. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.